Start screening. So I'm live.
We're going live. It'll be about 5 seconds before it.
And then
I'd like to thank everyone today for joining us this evening to announce the next leader of the Yukon Party, and we expect the next premier. I'm Mark Beasy, the president of the Yukon Party and your host for the evening. This leadership is an exciting next step for the Yukon Party and for our territory. With the current global pandemic, this has been a challenging time for so many Yukoners and Canadians. And I'd like to thank everyone who took time to vote in this leadership election. We've worked with the Yukon's Chief Medical Officer of Health to conduct this announcement this evening, so I'd like to thank that office for working with us to approve our plan. Tonight, joining me in the room, we have our three candidates, Linda Benoit, Brad Cathers, and Currie Dixon. As well, we have our interim leader, Stacey Hazard, and our broadcast team. In an adjacent room, we have members of our Leadership Election Committee who have planned and delivered this election for us. They have been doing a confirmation of the results since voting closed at 7 p.m. I want to thank all of them for all of their hard work and thank their chair, Mel Braze. They certainly had their work cut out for them in this strange year. At final count, we had 1,574 eligible voters take out party membership, and the election had a 96% voter turnout with 1,514 votes cast. This is a record turnout for any leadership race in the Yukon history. I'd like to share a quick overview of this evening. After I've completed my remarks, I'll be inviting our interim leader, Stacey Hazard, to say a few words on his last day as leader of the Yukon Party. After that, Mel will deliver me the final tally, and I'll then announce the election results. At that time, we will hear from the new leader of the Yukon Party. But first, I'd like to share a bit of the election process with everyone. We will be announcing the ballot results and vote totals. If no candidate achieves 50% plus one on the first ballot, the lowest candidate is dropped, and that candidate's votes are transferred to their voters' second-ranked candidate. This was the first leadership election conducted by the Yukon Party with online voting. Planning for online voting in a leadership election began a couple of years ago, and this has proven to be fortunate under the current conditions. I think it shows that with the right planning, the right precautions, and the right tools, Yukoners have an interest in seeing their democracy at work. So now I'd like to invite up our outgoing interim leader, Stacey Hazard, MLA for Pelly-Sutton.
Thank you, Vanna. Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone. And thank everyone at home that's tuned in tonight. It's great to be here in these unusual circumstances, but here we are. So obviously today's a happy day for me, as I took on this role about 44 months ago on a short-term basis. But it's been great. Really enjoyed it. So, thank the party for giving me the opportunity and allowing me to stay on. Thank my family for putting up with it, and the team. It's been a remarkable team. Sorry. I know I said I was happy. It's happy tears, man. No, You know, the team of elected officials has been just incredible to work with, and the staff have been great, and it's just been a really interesting time, and certainly have learned a lot. You know, I like I said, the elected members of the team have been great to work with, and I've learned so much from them, and I appreciate that immensely, and I can never say enough. You know, when we became the official opposition back in 2016, you know, every MLA really stepped up to the plate, you know, really took their job serious, and has worked so hard, and I'm so proud of all of them. You know, they continually impress me with their commitment to their ridings and their constituents, and all of the work that they've accomplished for their constituents. So again, like I said, I can't thank them enough for all of the work. You know, I think in my time as interim leader, you know, I've learned a lot about this Liberal government, and I would pass on those thoughts to whoever is successful tonight. You know, they're completely paralyzed by decision making. Major files have sat on desks for weeks, sometimes months. Development projects are dying in the assessment stage. Ministers ignore letters about crowded schools and classes happening in utility closets. The Premier and his ministers really live in a bubble, and they're disconnected from everyday Yukoners. They've accomplished little beyond a growing list of broken election promises. And any issue that comes along gets bogged down with review after review. And that is because there is no leadership. And when they face suggestions or for improvement or criticism, you know, they lash out and they attack rather than focusing on the issues at hand and focusing on those solutions that have been suggested to them. We've seen them go so far as to launch witch hunts for whistleblowers and target public servants and NGOs for criticizing the government. And I think that this is a big part of why the Liberals' response to COVID-19 has been so underwhelming. There's no leadership and a fear of criticism. You know, we've also seen the start of some concerning undemocratic tendencies. An example of that would be the Liberals have a Speaker of the Assembly who has been showing up to political events and fundraisers, blurring the lines between government and what it is supposed to be a neutral job as Speaker. The Liberals have been caught politically interfering in the access to information process, and they've used their majority to shut down recommendations such as that of the Independent Electoral Boundary Commission, only because the proposed boundaries they felt would have been bad for them. And most recently, the Liberals have been using this pandemic to give themselves broad new powers unrelated to public health, bypass legislature for major decisions, and spend millions in public dollars without any oversight. And the really sad part is the Premier has actually said that his Liberal government doesn't need legislative oversight. And this is a concerning trend, and at this point, undemocratic. But tonight, I want to talk about positive change. There's hope on the horizon. There's an election coming, and Yukoners are looking for change. Our membership numbers have skyrocketed by over 700% in the last year. We now have a record number of members for any leadership contest in Yukon history. Donations are pouring in, and people are already contacting the party asking how they can run in the next election. And tonight, obviously, we will have a new leader, and people are excited. And you can feel the excitement. On the first weekend, the long weekend of May, we had over 60% of the membership show up to vote. And that's a long weekend under this pandemic. So that's very impressive. Then on top of that, you know, President Mark Beasy has told us tonight 96% voter turnout. So thank you. It's clear that Yukoners are motivated and are ready for an alternative to what we have for a government. And thankfully, as a result of the great work that this caucus has done, our next leader will have a strong base to work from. And I look forward to working with the next leader and continuing to play a part in working towards getting the Yukon Party re-elected. So thank you again to all of you, and best of luck to whoever wins tonight.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you for all your hard work in taking on this role for the party, this short-term role. And also, on behalf of the Yukon Party and supporters, a big thank you to your wife, Shelley, for allowing you to take on this role. And now it's time. The election results. The voting...
Do you want me to give them to you?
That would be great. Thank you. Now I can fill in the blanks. The voting in this case did go to 2 rounds. In the first round, we had Linda with 160 votes, Brad with 637, and Currie with 694. For the second round of counting, the third place candidates' votes were redistributed, and the final voting, after the second round of counting, our second place candidate took 682 votes, and our winner and new leader of the Yukon Party with 752 votes is Currie Dixon. Come on up, Currie.
Excuse me. All right.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Mel, for the work of the committee. And thank you to everyone tuning in from around the territory and from outside the territory who have taken the time out of their Saturday night to be with us here virtually in this leadership announcement. Let me begin by offering a sincere and heartfelt thank you to the membership of the Yukon Party for trusting me to take on this role as your leader. It is a tremendous honor to be selected, and I humbly accept this role with gratitude. It's an incredible opportunity and a profound responsibility. There are very high expectations of our party and very high expectations of our leader. And it is now my job and my responsibility to live up to those expectations. My aim is to serve all Yukoners well and lead with integrity. Now, let me say a few words about the 2 people with whom I had the privilege of having my name stand alongside on the leadership ballot this election, Brad Cathers and Linda Benoit. To both of you, thank you. Thank you for putting your names forward. Thank you for your work in growing the Yukon Party to the record size that it is today. Through your efforts, your time, and your energy, you have helped establish a strong foundation from which the Yukon Party can now work towards winning the next election. I am proud to call both Linda and Brad friends, and I look forward to meeting with both of you to chat about, to begin to chart out a path to victory in the next election. To your friends, families, teams, and supporters, thank you. Thank you so much for your contributions. You should be proud of the job you've done and what we have all accomplished. I know that I have a lot of work to do to gain your trust and your support, and I look forward to reaching out in the coming weeks and months to explore how I can do that. The Yukon Party is a big tent with room for a variety of perspectives. I know that by coming together around our shared values, we can create a movement that will bring down the Liberal governments that have failed us both in Ottawa and here at home. So, if we are going to do that, we must remain strong and united. I need to also thank our interim leader, Stacey Hazard. Both our party and indeed the entire Yukon have been incredibly well served by Stacey in his role as interim leader of the Yukon Party and leader of the official opposition for Yukon over the past 3.5 years. I am sure this has turned out to be much more than he signed up for back in 2016 when he volunteered to act as the interim leader until a permanent leader could be chosen. Since then, he has taken this often thankless position and served with poise and expertise. He has done an admirable job at holding the government to account and offering thoughtful and strong opposition to the direction that the Liberals have taken us all. I may stand to be corrected on this, but research suggests that he is the longest-serving interim leader of a provincial or territorial political party in Canadian political history. A remarkable feat, no doubt. So on behalf of all of us, Stacey, thank you so much. I may not have your million-dollar smile or hairdo, but I do hope to live up to the example that you've set. To my friends in the Yukon Party caucus, I'm looking forward to working with each of you. I'm, of course, in the position of not having a seat in the legislature, so I will be relying on you to help me discharge the role of opposition and to prepare for the next election. Now, I'd like to turn my remarks to Yukoners in general, to offer a brief view of what you can expect from a Yukon Party under my leadership. For as long as the Yukon Party has existed, we have stood for certain foundational values: fiscal conservatism, balanced budgets, spending within our means, and keeping taxes low. We have stood up for the private sector, for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Those are Yukoners that need little more than the government getting out of their way in order to prosper. We have always encouraged the development of our natural resources and supported the jobs and opportunities that are created by a strong and healthy mining industry. And we've always stood up for hunters, anglers, and those who enjoy accessing our beautiful backcountry. Under my leadership, those foundational values will continue to underpin this party. But from that strong foundation, we do need to grow. I know that you all understand how imperative it is that we defeat the current Liberal government in this coming election. In order to do that, we must become ready to serve the next generation of Yukoners and understand their priorities. We must establish sound, productive, and respectful relationships with Yukon First Nations. We must look at more ways to ensure our unparalleled quality of life is not threatened, and that Yukoners and their families can be healthy and strong contributors to our economy. Whether that is looking at opportunities in early childhood education, mental health initiatives, and creating ways to empower and diversify our economy through training and infrastructure. A lack of leadership, indecision, and aversion to democratic accountability has plagued Sandy Silver's administration over these past years. The Liberal government is a ship without a captain. But we are now presented with a unique opportunity to consider new paths forward for Yukoners in a post-COVID world. There is much work to be done, and I am extremely motivated to get to work with all of you. We know that the next election will be about who Yukoners trust to restart the economy. We also know that the Liberal team has reportedly broken that trust. They've demonstrated time and again their lack of respect for democracy and transparency. In less than one term in government, they have voted down the Independent Electoral Boundary Commission changes, amounting to little more than gerrymandering electoral boundaries for their own political gain, botched the electoral reform process with their flawed commission. They've broken their promise to establish a fixed election date. And now they won't even reconvene the legislature to answer basic questions about their response to this global crisis. Sandy Silver was even so bold to tell Yukoners that his Liberal government does not need legislative oversight for their actions. All Canadians have a democratic right to legislative oversight on the decisions of their government. This is a grave abuse of power by the Liberals. Yukoners' trust has been broken. I am willing to put in the work to begin to repair it, and I will need all of you and all of your help to do so. That leads me to one last thing. My greatest sources of support and teamwork throughout this leadership run and always. My family. To my parents, Dawn and Linda, my sisters, my wife Brittany, and our children. Words are not enough. You have given me so much. Thank you for your ongoing love and support. To my friends and team, for their unwavering commitment throughout this race. Thank you so much. I recognize the sacrifice I'm asking of all of you as we move forward into even busier times. You are why we are here today and how we will win the next election. I am sincere when I say I look forward to speaking with you, developing a strong platform together, and leading this party into a more vibrant, inclusive, and creative evolution of itself while remaining rooted in our foundational values as Yukoners. Thanks again to all of you. Let's get to work. Good night. All right, that's it.